Well, it took enough times where I poked the bear, but finally, the bear scratched me back. Yes, I have tagged Raf in a good many tag videos in my time. I've done it a couple times. You'll probably remember a couple of the times that I've tagged him, but he finally got back at me. So I guess we should do another tag. It's tag time. Also, I had a video that I was going to make that didn't come out this week, so I had to postpone it. So yeah, you're getting another tag video. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, Britton here, also known as Samoki Dude, and I'm here with another video talking about another tag, the Spring into Adventure tag, to be specific. I was tagged, as I mentioned before, by my good friend Raf from Raf Blutaxt, getting back at me for tagging him in all those tag videos. But yes, the Spring into Adventure tag, he was tagged by Liam, who did he create it? I don't even know now. That's how bad I am at keeping up with this stuff. But I am here now, going to be answering some questions about some adventure books, adventure fiction authors, which is actually something I am quite fond of. I grew up reading a lot of I like to call them boys' adventures, stuff like Oliver Twist and Huckleberry Finn and The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I did read Huckleberry Finn a little later on, but Tom Sawyer definitely. Stuff about young kids going on wacky adventures that took place in the real world. That took place in the real world mostly, so it wasn't fantasy. But then I got into fantasy, which is a lot of it has to do with that. So yeah, I will be mentioning some fantasy stuff in here. But anyway, I don't want to go on too long and ramble. So let's get into the questions that is in the Spring into Adventure tag. Let's get into it before I ramble on for too much longer. So number one, pretty easy question. What's your favorite adventure book? Took me a minute, but I finally decided on Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. And yes, it is technically an adventure novel because, well, Oliver Twist goes on an adventure through London and ends up meeting a bunch of wacky characters along the way, gets into some trouble, ends up realizing he's a pawn in a scheme, and makes some friends along the way. It's a really good book, and it's one that I have a very deep soft spot for. It's one of my favorite stories of all time, because, well, I read it when I was a kid, but also I still think it holds up. I mean, Charles Dickens was a phenomenal storyteller, and I even think today, even though his stuff might be a little too wordy for modern audiences, I do think his stories themselves hold up today, and Oliver Twist is easily my favorite of them. I mean, you could say that A Tale of Two Cities is his best book, and I do love that book quite a bit. I think it's a fantastic book, but there's just something about Oliver Twist that really keeps me coming back for more. Probably the fact that I grew up reading it, and there are a lot of really iconic characters like Fagin and the Artful Dodger and Bill Sikes, one of the scariest villains in history. So yeah, I'm gonna go for number one. I will say Oliver Twist is my favorite adventure book of all time. It is just absolutely incredible, and it's one of my favorite stories of all time. So what can I say? Number two, this is another one that was fun. What's the newest / most recently published adventure book you've read? This was kind of hard because I'm really bad at keeping up with like adventure books, but the one that really came to my mind, and it's technically a fantasy novel, but it very much is in that tradition, is The Legend of Blackjack by A.R. Witham. I really liked The Legend of Blackjack. It really brought me back to when I was a kid reading Oliver Twist and Tom Sawyer and Treasure Island for the first time. Because the character of Jack Swift is very much in that tradition of scrappy boy characters who get wrapped up into an adventure, though it's much more modern, much more fantastical, overtly fantastical. It is a fantasy novel after all. It's really, really good. It's really a really good book. I read it last year, and it came out, I think, either the year before last or 2 years or 3 years ago. I don't remember. Andy, if you're in the comments section, let me know when it was published, because I can't think of it right now. But The Legend of Blackjack, I had a blast with it. I thought it was probably the most fun I had reading a book. And it was really nice, kind of revisiting that childhood nostalgia in a lot of ways. and those old boys adventures that I love, like Tom Sawyer, like Oliver Twist in that way. Though of course it's in a fantasy world. It's not a it's not an adventure that is mostly set in the real world that captures the adventurous spirit of our world. But that's where we're at. But yes, The Legend of Blackjack is the one that comes to my mind, and I think it does kind of. It's a nice addition into that tradition of storytelling, I think. So, The Legend of Blackjack by A.R. Witham, Andy, good dude, but also very good writer too. Not just saying that because we know each other. But Legend of Blackjack, good stuff. So, moving on to number 3, what is the oldest / earliest published adventure book you've read? This was kind of hard because there were a couple ones I thought of, like Beowulf, for instance, is technically an adventure. I'm sure Dr. Fantasy will appear in appear in my room and start haunting me. That's kind of how it rolls. But I decided to go with a more obvious pick because I didn't want to steal Dr. Fantasy's thunder. The Odyssey by Homer. I read it when I was in high school, and I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And it's one of the greatest stories ever told. What can I say? I mean, aside from the obvious. I mean, what hasn't been said about The Odyssey by Homer? I mean, it's quite frankly one of the greatest stories ever told. And a lot of people might be intimidated nowadays, think it's kind of stuffy because it's super old and it's one of the oldest stories in history. It's well regarded. It's been studied. There have been books written about it. There have been many adaptations, including one by Christopher Nolan, which I'll be checking out when it comes out next year. Very much looking forward to seeing what he does with the Odyssey. But it's just a damn good ripping yarn. It is just a blast to read through, and it's also beautifully written. I mean, so many things have been influenced by the Odyssey. I mean, the Odyssey, aside from Beowulf, is probably the touchstone. Well, Beowulf, the Odyssey, and Norse myth are probably the 3 biggest touchstones of modern epic fantasy as we know it today. Many of the tropes we know and love from modern fantasy comes from the Odyssey. And if you read the Odyssey like you would a fantasy novel, I think it becomes an even more enjoyable read. It is just freaking awesome. I really enjoy the Odyssey, and not just because it's old and you're expected to like it. It's also really good, and it's well written for the most part. And it's a great story of a guy who just desperately wants to get home, and all of the setbacks that he gets while trying to do just that. My God, Odysseus is either the luckiest man alive or the unluckiest. I don't know which is which, because my God, he goes through the ringer throughout the entirety of the Odyssey. But for question 3, I would say that the Odyssey by Homer is probably the oldest adventure book that I've probably read. You could note the Iliad, but I think of the Iliad more as a war story than an adventure story. The Odyssey, it's in the word, is an adventure. So, that's kind of how I view it. Number 4, who's your favorite adventure book author? This was kind of hard, actually, because there's a good couple I could have named, like Robert Louis Stevenson, and, a few other people in that realm. Fritz Leiber, I could have named him, but I don't know if I consider those guys favorites, though. I do like them quite a bit, but I don't know if I would call them favorites. So I posted a couple authors that I really liked. So Dickens, of course, is one. I really love his, I talked about it earlier, Oliver Twist, one of my favorite stories of all time. Also, just a really damn good storyteller. Mark Twain, for similar reasons. That dude was just a great storyteller. I mean, read one of his books, and it still holds up. I mean, some people might be uncomfortable with the racism, and that's understandable. I get that. But they're still damn good stories. I mean, they're really, really, really good. I remember reading Huckleberry Finn when I was in high school and just being blown away by just how good it was. I mean, it was fun. Like, I had fun reading it. I mean, it's a dark book. It's a little darker than, like, Tom Sawyer, for instance, which is, is a bit closer to my heart because, again, I read it when I was a kid. But Huckleberry Finn is great. Like, it is a fantastic book, at least in my opinion. Joseph Conrad, of course, though he kind of deconstructed the sort of adventure story with Heart of Darkness, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I've talked about it a bunch of times. I've talked about it on other people's channels. It's one of my favorites, and what makes Conrad fun is that he actually lived a lot of the stuff that he wrote about. So he really went to Africa. He really did serve on merchant ships. But some of you might say, Britton Conrad, you've only read one of his books. Well, if you haven't read Heart of Darkness, then that is enough for me. Though I do want to read some more of his books. I don't know where to go next. I'm thinking either Lord Jim or some of his short stories, because I've heard from some friends of mine that his short stories are even better than Heart of Darkness, which is, I dare say, blasphemous. And last one I'll bring up is Robert E. Howard, the famous sword and sorcery author, creator of Conan, Solomon Kane, Bran Mak Morn, all of those great guys. And even though he wrote fantasy for the most part, he also was very much a descendant from guys like Mark Twain and Joseph Conrad and Robert Louis Stevenson and Jack London. I forgot to mention Jack London. Jack London is also fantastic. Though I've only read his Call of the Wild and White Fang, and To Build a Fire, which is also really good. Jack London is also on there, because he also has very adventurous type of stuff. But Robert E. Howard, though, I do think is an adventure writer, as much as he is a fantasy writer. He really took the trappings of those adventures that I was talking about earlier, and really put it in with the fantasy genre, and, well, the rest is history. I mean, so much of fantasy that isn't J.R.R. Tolkien has come from Robert E. Howard, and he's just great. I mean, get the Del Rey editions of his Conan stories. They hold up. I mean, again, racist stuff in there, so, I mean, that might offend some people, but the stories themselves still hold up. I mean, my God, could that dude write. But yeah, Robert E. Howard, those are some of my favorites. Just, considerable warnings for people who might be sensitive to racial stuff. Anyway, number 5, what's your favorite film adaptation of an adventure book? I hate to go back to Oliver Twist and keep whipping that horse, but Oliver, the 1960s version of Oliver, I really, really, really enjoy that movie. Yes, it is a musical version of Oliver, and yes, there might be some people who think it's a bit silly. They are mistaken. It is a fantastic movie, even, with or without the music. And, of course, Oliver Reed, the late, great Oliver Reed, played the best Bill Sikes that I've ever seen, probably the scariest, and, I mean, my God, that man is, what an actor that guy was, and what a performance as Bill Sikes. He is absolutely incredible. But the 1968, if I recall correctly, the 1968 version of Oliver is my favorite adaptation of an adventure book. And again, I think Oliver Twist is an adventure book. I mean, it's literally a kid going on an adventure into London with some really angry social political commentary about how badly the poor are treated, particularly poor children. But Oliver is a fantastic adaptation of Oliver Twist, and it's easily still my favorite. I know a lot of people really like Oliver and Company, and the Sykes in that movie is really great too. But I really love Oliver Reed as Bill Sikes. He just fucking nailed it. He reached into some really dark, depraved part of himself to bring that character to life. I don't know how he did it, but I'm glad he did. And Oliver is a fantastic adaptation of, well, one of my favorite stories of all time. So let's move on. Number 6, who's your favorite adventure book character? That was kind of hard, because I don't really think of the characters as much in the adventure stories. I mean, I could say Oliver Twist again, but I don't know if he was one of my favorite characters. That probably either goes to the Artful Dodger or Charlie Bates. I like those characters a lot more than Oliver Twist particularly. I mean, I like Oliver, but I like those two a lot more. Dickens was very good at that, actually. He really knew how to create great side characters. But the one I decided to go with was Huckleberry Finn. I really like Huckleberry Finn. I really like his, how do I put it? I really like his wistfulness. I like that he's not quite the wily trickster that Tom Sawyer is. He's much more reflective. He's much more. I like his free spirit, is what I'll say. He's a bit more of a free spirit. I really like that about him. He has this. He kind of reminds me of my friend Josh in a lot of ways, who is traveling around the United States at the moment. Crazy bastard. But and I mean literally hitchhiking across the United States. Like, I am not screwing around. Like, I think he just finished visiting all the people he wanted to visit. I think he's actually in LA right now. But anyway, but Huckleberry Finn reminds me of Josh in a lot of ways, but I really like that kind of free spirit, kind of wanderlust that he has. And he's just a kid trying to figure it out. And Mark Twain was really good at depicting that in his books. I really enjoy Huckleberry Finn quite a bit. I do like that he is not. I mean, I know a lot of people love Tom Sawyer, and I like Tom Sawyer too. He's great. But again, I really like the kind of free-spiritedness and that kind of individualist streak that Huckleberry Finn has. He doesn't like people telling him what to do. He likes to do his own thing, and I really like that in a lot of ways. I really admire that in a way. So yeah, he's probably my favorite adventure book character that I can think of at the moment. I could probably go. I could probably name someone else, but Huckleberry Finn is the one I'll stick with at the moment. Number 7, do you prefer fiction or nonfiction adventure books? I generally read more fiction than nonfiction. Nothing really wrong with nonfiction. I'm just really bad at reading it. Though one of my favorite adventure books of all time is Into the Wild by John Krakauer, which is probably my favorite nonfiction book of all time. That and Portrait of an Addict as a Young Man is probably my favorite nonfiction book of all time. I love Into the Wild, but I generally read more fiction than nonfiction, especially for the YouTube channel, because, well, I like reading fiction because I like seeing fictional worlds, or even fictional depictions of our world. I really like that. I like seeing the... Not saying that, nonfiction is, like, constricting or anything, because let me tell you, the real world is just as strange, if not stranger, than anything people can come up with in a book. I mean, that's why I like the world, despite how disappointing it can be. But I really like fiction a lot more. I generally read more fiction than nonfiction, so there you go. That's really my answer. I really need to get back into nonfiction, but generally the adventures that I read about are generally fictional, so yeah. Did I say generally twice? Oh boy. Alright, let me just get another drink there. I'm running out of steam here. Number 8, do you consider yourself adventurous? Why or why not? Not particularly. Though I have certainly wanted to travel more now that I'm a bit older and I have some money that I can spend. But I've always been more of a homebody, though. I like being at my house and staying inside and, doing my thing. But I mean, I like to get out once in a while, and I would like to travel, as I get older and get more money and get in a more stable part in my life. Or, I mean, I could just do what my friend Josh does and just fucking get out of Canada and just start walking around the United States, just meeting people. But, yeah, I'm more of a homebody. I've always liked living at my house. I've always liked being at my house. I don't really like to get out very often unless I'm going to, like, the bookstore or something, or the comic shop or whatever. I generally just don't care for getting out. Nothing against it, and I would like to travel some more. But, yeah, I like staying inside and hanging out in my house. I guess that's why I read about adventures more than actually doing them, because I wouldn't say I have much of a wanderlust. But yeah, so that's my answer for number 8. Number 9, what's your favorite genre to combine with the adventure genre? I imagine I'm hoping I don't get some eye rolls from this, but how can it not be fantasy? I mean, the two genres go together like peanut butter and jelly, if you will. Um, I really like that's why I like fantasy. I like the fantasy where our scrappy heroes, suit up and go on an adventure. I mean, it's kind of the appeal of the genre, really. That's really the appeal for me. I mean, fantasy is the genre where the world is an adventure. Go out and see how great the world can be. Though, I mean, not all fantasy worlds are nice. But I do think fantasy at its best can show that the world is just as magical a place as anything that can be made up by anybody. So go out there and experience it, and that's something I agree with on a level, even though it's kind of dual in a way. But yeah, number 9 is fantasy. Not a very surprising answer, very likely, but I also like historical adventures. Those are always fun. When they're done right, I like them. There's some of them that are done very badly, but I did read Sharp last year, and I had Ben on to talk about it, and it was good. I enjoyed it. So, but yeah, fantasy is the one I generally go to because, I just love fantasy quite a bit. So, yeah. Number 10, last question, at least last one I have to answer here. Do you play or have you ever played adventure-themed video games, board games, tabletop RPG? Yes, I have. And they actually tend to be my favorite kind of games because I love nothing more than a well-made open-world adventure game where I can just walk outside and go nuts and shoot things. Talking about Red Dead 2. But I also like RPGs. I have played stuff like D&D and Symbaroum, and I've played some other settings on D&D and some other systems as well. I don't love D&D quite as much. I think that the combat rules are way too rigid. Symbaroum's actually my favorite adventure games. My favorite RPG setting. I really like the setting, and I really like the rules because it's not quite as rule heavy. I generally don't like following rules if you couldn't gather. At least in games I don't. I just, I do my own thing. But yes, I like adventure games. I like them quite a bit. I'm more of a tabletop RPG video game guy. I don't play a lot of board games. I did when I was a kid, like Candyland and Risk. I was a big Risk fan. Loved playing with the toy soldiers. But, yeah, anyway, I'm getting off topic. Number 11, tag some people. Well, I didn't want to do the usual suspects, so, Jason and Carol, you're safe. You don't have to do this video. I'm not going to tag you guys. But I decided to tag some other friends of mine that I haven't tagged before. So I'm going to be tagging my good friend Sam from iSamwise, who's a pretty cool guy, and lovely chap. He's always been a good friend of the channel, and he's got a really great YouTube channel that he's running over there, so give him a look. I think he would have some fun answers, because like me, he seems to really enjoy the adventure part of fantasy. And I'll also tag my good friend Zachary Shea, who I've met recently. He has a pretty good channel where he talks about books and comics, which is always a good thing in my book. I quite like his content. He's a good dude. I've met him a couple times. Well, not personally, just via the internet. We had a podcast not too long ago, which I'm hoping to put out at some point in the future. But aside from that, that is it. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. So, yeah, that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, as I like to do before the end of these. You can find me on Twitter. You can also find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. You can also find me on Blue Sky and Instagram. Sorry, I've had a short circuit there for a minute. I don't use Blue Sky very much, but I am starting to warm up to it. And as always, like, subscribe, comment, even talk about some of your favorite adventure stories, if you've even gotten this far. As my buddy John Minton likes to say, it feels good when you press that like and subscribe button. It it just gives you a little pep in your step, you know? It just gives you a little something. Can't quite name it at the moment, but it gives you a little something. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I definitely did. I enjoyed making it, and thanks, Raf, for getting back at me and tagging me in this. It also proved handy because the video I was gonna put out on Wednesday, which is tomorrow by the time I'm recording this, did not work out. I have not finished with it yet, so yeah, pushing it over a week. But anyway, so I won't ramble on for too long. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, see you guys later. Bye-bye.